When I was a young kid and I used to have one of my tantrums, and I know what you're thinking, Jeff, surely you didn't throw tantrums. But yeah, I did. We all did, didn't we? I'd be around about 6, I guess. 6, 7, 5, 6, 7. My mum used to threaten me. She used to say, Jeff, if you don't shut up, I'm going to phone the home and they're going to come and get you in a van. Now if I didn't shut up, she would go to the phone in the hall, the bottom of the stairs near the front door, and she'd pick the phone up and she'd say, is that the home? Can you come and get him? He's being really naughty. Now back in those days I believed in Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy, so all this seemed very plausible. Looking back on it now, she didn't actually dial a number. She didn't tell them her name or our address. So how are they going to pick me up? And really, is that what homes do? But back then, when I was that age, I really believed it. There was a van on the way, and I would shut up immediately. It was a little magic potion. But the home that she was pretending to phone was Strawberry Field, and that's where we're heading now. This is High Street in Woolton Village, and this marks 60 years of Woolton in bloom. Now if we carried on at these crossroads, we would end up in Allerton and Garston. If we turn left, we'd end up in Hunts Cross and eventually Speke, and if we turned right, we would head towards Penny Lane and Smithdown Road and the city centre, and of course John Lennon's Aunt Mimi's house on Strawberry Fields. This is Menlove Avenue, and we'll take a walk to John Lennon's Aunt Mimi's house, and then from there we take a short walk to Strawberry Fields. I'll tell you what, this is a little bit boring. Let's walk along Vale Road instead. Back to the Derby Arms pub and its junction with Vale Road and High Street. That's a motorbike that's making that noise behind me. It's an old British bike by the sound of it. This piece of land here used to be a car sales site, and the building in the background there used to be where they did the mechanical work. I have heard that it's going to be built on. There's going to be some properties built there. I guess that's coming up pretty soon. It's been a long time since I've walked up Vale Road. Maybe the last time I was 16 or so, and came along here to partake in some underage drinking at the pub which is further up. Pub's called the Gardener's Arms. Vale Road runs parallel almost with Menlove Avenue, the main road we started walking along, and it does rejoin it further up. It takes a bend to the left and rejoins Menlove Avenue. You'll notice some high-rise buildings on the left-hand side which run along Menlove Avenue. Someone told me that to get a top flat there you need a letter from God. I guess the views are really nice. I think if I was going to ask God for a letter, I think I'd ask him to include a front and back garden as well. As well as running parallel to Menlove Avenue to our left hand side, we're also running parallel with Quarry Street, which featured in my Woolton Village video from a few years ago now, 2019. That runs parallel with us on the right hand side. There's quite a mix of different styles of houses on Vale Road. Further up behind us, where we started from near the pub, some of those date back to Victorian times. These obviously are a lot newer. I'm going to guess that these are maybe 1930s or so, but I haven't looked it up, so I can't say that that's actually true. But there's quite a mix of different ages and different styles of buildings in this road as you walk along. The high-rise on Menlove Avenue were quite controversial when they were built. Local residents formed a committee to have them stop building them when the plans were drawn, but obviously they went through and they've been here for as long as I can remember. The reason the high-rise were opposed by the local residents was because they thought they didn't fit in with the landscape of Woolton at the time. And I guess they don't, but they've become part of the place. I always used to think I was near home when I was on the bus and we used to pass them. I used to think, well, not far to go now. They sort of fit in now. I guess at the time there was a little bit of a shock to the landscape. Just going to stop in a moment and film this corner property, which looks a lot older than anything else around it at the moment, but it also gives you a view up towards Quarry Street. So at the top of the road there is Quarry Street, and that runs along parallel towards Beaconsfield Road, where we're headed to see Strawberry Fields. Now these are the two last high rises coming up on the left hand side. I'm going to cross the road and they'll disappear from view for a little while. Now I've just made a mistake because I said we were off towards Strawberry Fields, and it's actually called Strawberry Field. Originally when the first property was built it was called Strawberry Fields, but it changed its name in 1905 to Strawberry Field. So although the Beatles song is called Strawberry Fields, it's actually Strawberry Field, which is the name on the gate of the property. Another quick glimpse up the road there towards Quarry Street, and when we turn left onto Menlove Avenue, Quarry Street carries on to a junction with Beaconsfield Road, and if you turn left at its junction there, you'd be able to come down to Strawberry Field from there. I think I should say, apart from some of the properties on Quarry Street and some of the properties that we walk past near the car sales site, none of these houses would have been here when the original Strawberry Field property was built. All this area, as far as you can see, would have been fields and farms. When we moved to Woolton in 1960, my dad used to tell me about the fields of Woolton, how everything was fields and farmlands, and that was in his lifetime, so prior to that it was even less built up. So when this Strawberry Fields property was built, it was probably the only thing that you would see for miles and miles, apart from probably the houses, the small sandstone houses on Quarry Street. So on the right hand side here, this white building is the Gardener's Arms pub, and this was the reason for my journey when I was 16, the last time I came up here for my underage drinking session. Now I'm just going to swing around here so that you can have a look at the last two high-rise buildings which face onto Menlove Avenue. And back to the pub, and that road again leads up to Quarry Street. Now as we walk past the last of the high-rise on Menlove Avenue, John Lennon would have lived on Menlove Avenue on our left hand side here at his Aunt Mimi's home with his Uncle George, and some of the houses on Vale Road here would have backed on to the back of their house. So this one here is the last of the high rise on Menlove Avenue. So a short journey down here, and I'm going to guess where this very large overgrown tree is. From there somewhere, John Lennon's old house with his Aunt Mimi would be on the left hand side. Maybe this building here backs onto it, or one of the houses. So the story goes that John Lennon was quite fascinated with Strawberry Field. By the time he was living here, it was an orphanage, and I remember it as an orphanage. This is why my mum was phoning them up and asking them to come and take me away. But he was quite fascinated, and he used to climb over the wall. He used to take the walk from around about here somewhere down to Beaconsfield Road, climb over the wall and play with the children there. And I think the playtime was announced by the band playing some music, and he used to say to his aunt, "Come on, we're going to be late." And he would take off, climb the wall and play with the children. But after the playtime was over, the teachers there used to do a head count, and of course they had one too many children. And his Aunt Mimi got involved with the school not wanting him to break in and play with the children. And she used to say to him, "If they catch you again, you're going to get hung." And it referred to this country having a capital punishment at the time, where murderers and such like were hung. And that's why the line in the song he sings, "It's nothing to get hung about." That's where that comes from. Now this is where Vale Road bends round to the left, and we'll soon be joining up with Menlove Avenue. And I'm going to, this is the junction here with Menlove Avenue. I'm going to take a left and walk towards Aunt Mimi's house. But Strawberry Field, you would have to turn right. So where this white house is, that marks the junction with Menlove Avenue. We'd have to turn right there and walk to Beaconsfield Road and then take another right. And it's not a short walk, it's not far, but it's not exactly, it's a sort of 5-minute walk, I think. So Strawberry Fields is in that direction, or Strawberry Field is in that direction, and in this direction is John Lennon's Aunt Mimi's house. When the Beatles became famous, John Lennon's Aunt Mimi didn't like living here anymore because her house was inundated with fans. So John Lennon bought her a house on the south coast in a town called Poole, and she lived there. The house was sold to somebody else, and I think when that person either moved or died, Yoko Ono wanted the National Trust to buy the house and use it as a memorial to where John used to live. but at the time they wouldn't buy it because they said that not enough music had been written here. So Yoko Ono bought the property, revamped it to basically what it is now, and turned it back into a 1940s style house, and then she gifted it to the National Trust. Anyway, we're back at the junction with Vale Road now, and we're going to walk towards Strawberry Field. A wealthy shipping owner called George Warren had an American wife, and the couple purchased a large amount of land here. They built a Gothic Style Victorian house here in around 1870, and on the land they were growing wild strawberries, hence the name Strawberry Fields. George Warren died in 1912, and his widow sold the house and land to a very wealthy American shipping millionaire called Alexander Mitchell. Now they lived here, or he lived here with his wife for quite some time. He died in 1927, but his wife continued to live in the house. She decided to sell up so that she could move back to America in 1934. So the house was sold to a Liverpool woman by the name of Mary Fowler. And Mary Fowler was a charity worker, and when she bought the house and the land, she donated the building and the land to the Salvation Army. Now this is what the house looked like back then, and this is what it looked like when John Lennon came here, and I remember it very well. It used to tower above the walls and everything around it. You could see the peaks of the top of the house. From Menlove Avenue we used to get the bus into town and ride back on the bus, and you would be able to see it peeping over the trees. So Mary Fowler gifted the property and the land to the Salvation Army in either 1934 or 1935. By 1936 the Salvation Army opened the property as an orphanage, and at the beginning they only took girls. According to the records of the time, they had 40 girls living here, but by the 1950s they also started taking in boys. Originally boys from the age of 3, but not long after that they just basically took in boys and girls of any age. We're going to come to the junction with Beaconsfield Road soon, so we'll be taking a right hand turn away from Menlove Avenue. The red gates of the building became a place of pilgrimage after John Lennon's song was released in 1967 by the Beatles. The gates were replaced by replicas in 2011, but the originals were stolen and they were sold to an antiques dealer in Birmingham. The antique dealer, upon finding out what they actually were, returned them to Liverpool. He actually returned them to the police. And they were put on display at the Beatles Story in Albert Dock, along with a number of other Beatles memorabilia. The original gates were on display at Strawberry Field for a while at the opening of the new Salvation Army site here in 2019, and I came here on the day that the new site opened and took some shots of the original gates, and you can see those on the video I did of Woolton back in 2019. And if you don't want to watch the whole video, it's actually at the end, so you can just skip to the end and have a look at this site on its opening day. As the 1970s arrived, the original house was suffering from structural problems such as dry rot, and it was seen as being not fit for purpose anymore. It wasn't cost effective to repair the damage, and it was decided that the building would be demolished. It seemed to be a cheaper option than ploughing money into its restoration. So in 1973, the original Victorian mansion, Strawberry Field, was demolished. And here we are, this is the replica gates where Beatles fans from all over the world come to have their photograph taken here. And this is the new building which was built in 2019. So apart from being a site which Beatles fans come along to visit, this new building is a place where young people with special needs and special educational needs come for training. Now, when the original Victorian house was demolished, it was actually replaced with a new building which consisted of 3 family units, and each one would house 12 children. At the same time, a new entrance drive was created further along Beaconsfield Road, which is the one we've just seen now. And the old gates and pillars bearing the name Strawberry Field were no longer used. So that's the site where we've just seen the replica gates and the posts with the name Strawberry Field on, as well as quite a few other names that people scroll on it these days, and have done, to be honest, for years. These are probably the grounds here that John Lennon used to come and play with the children, climb over the wall and get caught for still being there when roll call was made. And this is what's here now, which is a cafe and an area where you can sit and take in the day. Now thousands and thousands of people come to visit this site in Liverpool every year, and they come from all over the world to see the gates and the site, have the photographs taken, and it's some big business. Here's the Beatles bus. They have 3 of these? I didn't know. I thought it was just one very busy coach, but no, they've got 3. It's a massive shame that when you come here you can't see the original Victorian Gothic building. I think back then it was just a lack of foresight of what people would be interested in. So this is the original Victorian Gothic Style house, and the original gates, and you can see Strawberry Field as the name on the gate posts there. Once the original mansion was demolished in 1973, this is the building that replaced them. This would have been the 3 units, each one housing 12 children. Looks lovely, doesn't it? The children's home finally closed in 2005, and the building we see here was then used as a Salvation Army church. And these are the replica gates before the land was converted into what it is today, and you can see it's just an overgrown mess behind the gates. Now, I came across someone who suggested John Lennon moved to New York and lived in the Dakota apartment buildings, and someone pointed out the similarity between the Dakota apartment buildings and the house, the original house at Strawberry Fields, and they were wondering if John Lennon subconsciously thought of strawberry fields when he decided to move into the Dakota apartments. And I've got to admit, there is a similarity, especially at the top of the buildings. I guess it's possible. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch up soon.